Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Almanac's first virtual candidate forum. I'm Kevin Forestieri. I'm the assistant editor of the Almanac. And with me this evening is Angela Swartz, our reporter for the town of Portola Valley. Many of you know her.
Thanks for yeah.
We're excited to have the participation of all 5 candidates competing for 3 seats on the Portola Valley Town Council on the November ballot this year. We've got one incumbent, Craig Hughes, who has served on the council since 2013. As well as a field of 4 challengers, Judith Haskell, Mary Hufty, Dale Fowl, and Craig Taylor, all of whom have been civically engaged for years and served on town committees. Our goal at the Almanac this election season is to provide you with accurate and reliable information on each race, empowering you to make decisions at the ballot box based on the issues that impact your lives. Tonight, we want to give you an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates on key issues, helping you decide who would best represent your views on the council. While some of these questions are ours, others came directly from readers who responded to our survey and emails asking what you think are the biggest issues facing the town. We've got questions that were coming in hours before this started, so definitely appreciate that. And I think that the thoughtful recommendations we got over time have, better reflect some of the hot button issues facing the town. In order to move at a brisk pace and keep things moving along, we're going to have time limits for each response to the questions, and we'll be asking each candidate to wait until they're called before they start to answer each question. There'll be a timer on the screen indicating how much time has been allotted to each question and when a candidate's time is up. And I will be very gentle in saying your time is up if you keep going. So hopefully that works out. Tonight, we're going to have a mix of longer answers between 45 seconds and 1 minute each. Yes, that's long. Followed by an interlude of shorter, more rapid fire questions capped at 15 seconds each. These can be a few words or a sentence or two, something like that. And before we get into the questions, we're going to start tonight's forum by asking each candidate to briefly introduce themselves before we head into the questions. So with that being said, let's jump into our opening statements. And we're going to go ahead and set the timer for 1 minute. Once I see that on the screen, I know that we're good to go. No, too much time. Can't give them that much. All right, 1 minute. And the first person to go for opening statements is Judith Haskell. You're muted.
Okay, thank you. I'm fixed now. I thank you to the Almanac for hosting tonight. I am running for the Portola Valley Town Council because I want to give back to a town that has given me and my family so very much. I know I have the right balance of temperament and experience to guide this town through challenging times and continue the legacy of our unique community that we all are so lucky to call home. For those of you who do not yet know me, I have lived in Portola Valley for 15 years. I have volunteered in various volunteer roles for 12 of those years, starting on the Trails and Paths Committee, continuing on to ad hoc committees and task forces, and most recently on the Planning Commission for 8 years. These roles helped me build strong ties to the town. Professionally, I am a partner in one of the top global law firms. For nearly 30 years as a transactional attorney, I have been guiding companies with diverse interests and backgrounds to work together to achieve a common goal. And I want regularly lead high stakes discussions and complex and lengthy engagements that require lots of knowledge. I believe this experience will enable me to be a valuable town council member.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Next on the list is Mary Hufty. You got to unmute yourself.
Hey, Kevin, just so you know, we can't see the timer.
Okay, well, I'll start barking recklessly when I when it goes
I can
up.
see it, but it's
I'm going to tell you the time.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Mary.
It's not working. Okay, I'm going to tell a story. When I first came to Stanford, when I first came to California in 1968, I rode my bicycle out to Wayside Church on a Sunday when I was 18 years old, and I dropped my wallet. And I had a great time, and I didn't know I'd dropped it, and I kept on going. And about 45 minutes later, or when I got back home, I got a call from the school saying my wallet had been found. And when I was just now campaigning, somebody said to me, well, of course I'm going to vote for you. You found my wallet. And I thought to myself that that's what I love about Portola Valley. And that's why I want to serve Portola Valley, is because it's a community that wants to pass it forward. That's the reason I want to be involved. I want to become the person who helps this town to remain as wonderful as it is.
Thank you, Mary. Let's move on to Craig Hughes. I'm going to make sure to say which Craig. Craig, you got 1 minute.
Thank you. The work of town government, even a small one like Portola Valley, has grown increasingly complex, and balancing all of the priorities of the town involves a lot more work than it did even 9 years ago when I began on the council. The range of topics that come before the council has grown, the technical complexity has grown, whether it's in housing, fire, criminal safety, pandemic response, recruiting and hiring staff and consultants, or just figuring out how to adapt our town center tennis courts for pickleball. The expectations and needs of our residents have changed and grown over the years, and they continue to change as our population evolves. As a candidate, I bring a depth of knowledge, an openness to discussion, willingness to learn new things, combined with a history of execution and follow-up to ensure that when we make plans and when we decide on a path, that gets carried through to a final result. I urge everyone to vote for council members who will be able to work with the public, with committees, with our town staff and other experts across all of the issues that we will face in the coming 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. Next, we have Dale.
Great. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with the residents of Portola Valley this evening. This, my friends, is a very important election, and it will decide the direction of our town for years to come. And with that, the first responsibility of local government is safety. And we do face an existential threat from wildfire and earthquake. I'm running on a platform of safety first, pushing back against unsafe state mandates, and improved town governments. For those of you who don't know me, my wife and I have lived in Portola Valley for 25 years. We raised our 3 children here. I've been involved in volunteer activities in schools and in town for almost 20 of those years. I've been on the Emergency Preparedness Committee for over 8 years, the last 2 years as chair. I've been involved in the Wildfire Committee and the Evacuation Committee. I care deeply about our town, and that is why I'm running for town council. The challenges we face are complex and nuanced, so please visit my website, or better yet, reach out to me directly for more information. Thank you very much.
All right, great. And then finally, for the last person for this question, we have Craig Taylor. Craig, go ahead.
Thank you. So thanks to the Almanac for holding this. Thanks to everybody who tuned in tonight. I've been a resident of Portola Valley for almost 40 years now. Very active volunteer. I've been on Trails Committee, EPC. I'm currently on the Planning Commission. And you know, I'm running because I love this town. I think it's important what we all do, and it's important that the residents get involved. And I guess part of my pitch is, you know, my platform that I'm running on is safety, civility, and accountability. And what I think is critical is, you know, we understand the wildfire safety issues, and we'll probably talk a lot more about them tonight. But civility is also an important thing. And, you know, I feel fortunate that all 5 planning commissioners, including myself, endorsed my campaign. And I think that says something about the level of civility that I bring to my colleagues and to the public. So that's what I'm really hoping to see tonight as we kind of talk through these issues. Thank you.
Great, wonderful. Everybody's doing very well on time, so I appreciate that. One more table setting question before we get into some more substantive stuff. This question, we're going to start with Mary this time, which is, can you please list your, oh, sorry, let's make sure we get the time here. This is a 30-second question. We intend this to be just a brief rundown of your platform here. The question is, what do you believe are the top 3 issues facing the town? So we're going to start with Mary, but we need to get our timer set to 30 minutes. Or sorry, 30 seconds. Ooh, can't do 30 minutes. Okay, all right. The timer has made it. We're up to, okay, go ahead and start the timer over at 30 seconds. Mary, it's your turn. Once we get that all set, go ahead.
Well, I would have to say the number one priority is safety right now. And the reason for that is that we're facing climate change. Number two would be the character of the town, more than likely, how we're going to keep and preserve in a changing world the character of our town. Actually, I'd call it enhance, not. And third would be housing. And I feel strongly that we need to have a working housing program that works for the character of our town.
Thank you, Mary. Next is going to be Craig Hughes. Go ahead when you are ready.
I think the top three priorities are probably first and foremost finance. Without a successful platform to finance the operations of the town, nothing else can be done. Just behind that is public safety, including fire safety, and tied into the safety is a plan that we developed locally in Portola Valley, as we have done for increased development and other requirements that the state puts on us. So those three need to go together hand in hand.
Thanks, Craig. Next, we have Dale.
I laid them out earlier, but number one is safety. And we do have an existential threat from wildfire and from earthquake. We need a good, honest assessment of our safety and a good safety element to move forward. Number two is pushing back on these state mandates, which are not taking our safety into account. They don't take account of wildfire, earthquake, or our evacuation routes. And number three is an improvement in governance. And I'm sure we will have lots of chance to talk about governance later tonight.
Yep. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's get into some more meaty topics. This is going
We still
to
have
be...
two more who haven't answered yet, Kevin.
Oh, I am so sorry. That's my one mistake for the night. I promise, everybody. All right. Let's move on to Craig Taylor.
Thank you. That was a short 30 seconds there. So as I mentioned in my opening statement, so safety, civility, and accountability. Safety clearly is our number one priority, but it's not our only priority. So part of civility is working together on all the issues that we have to deal with. So I think that's going to be critical. And then accountability is both financial and, as we sort of work through, measurable goals within the town. I think it's critical that we start doing annual reviews of all our goals to make sure that we're really moving ahead in the way that the residents expect. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for everybody looking out for each other here. Judith, go ahead. You're the last one.
Thank you very much. You'll hear agreement here. I put safety first, but in a balanced way. We have many hazards in town. We've got to keep educated, keep evolving our plans. We're known for cutting edge solutions to these things. Housing. These issues have been on my radar since I started volunteering. They're not going away, and we have to find something that works for us. And governance and communication. We have to open back up to a robust dialogue to and from the residents.
Great, thank you. I believe I'm allowed to move on to the next question here. So, you know, thanks for those answers, because this dovetails into the next question here, which is, we've been hearing feedback back from residents that staff have been slow to respond to questions. So there's an answer question here of what do we do? Should the town go on a hiring spree? How would you solve this problem? This is going to be a 1-minute question. So go ahead and set the timer to 1 minute. And we will start this time with Craig Hughes. So let's wait till we have that timer. All right, 1 minute, Craig, the floor is yours.
It's going to be very difficult to answer this in 1 minute. This is an extremely complex problem. It involves staffing levels. It involves time taken away from other projects and relative prioritization. We absolutely wish to ensure that the town is communicating as well and as openly as it can with members of the public. That is a function that government, whether it's Portola Valley or anywhere else, has historically been terrible at. This year with the mayor, myself as mayor, and with the vice mayor, we've been working with Jeremy, our town manager, and Melvin, our assistant town manager, on putting together a program for improving the functions of communication, both inbound and outbound and round trip between town staff and the public, and with involving our committees. to improve the processes and improve the management of communication so that what is happening in town is known to everybody and everybody is able to participate. It is a very complex task and very multifaceted.
Thank you, Craig. Next is going to be Dale. Dale, you have 1 minute. Go for it.
Thank you very much. I don't think it's as complex as the mayor would say. I've managed large organizations, small organizations, and several of the professionals here also have constraints on their time. One of the biggest tricks out there is to say, okay, I'm going to respond to everything within 24 hours. At the end of every day, you answer every email, answer every phone call, and if it takes you until 7 o'clock, you actually do get it done. I think that getting the information to our citizens, responding to their requests is of paramount importance. And probably nothing is more important than that other than my top 3 items. So anyway, that's how I would approach it. And it will take some work and some training, but it can be done.
Great. Thanks, Dale. Let's see. Next is going to be Craig Taylor. Craig.
Thank you. So I guess I stand somewhere in between those guys. I don't think this is a simple thing. I think asking staff to respond to everything in 24 hours, or basically at the end of the day, is a nice sentiment, but I'm not sure how realistic it is. On the other hand, I think we do need to meet our commitments. So I think the critical thing is if we say we're going to get back to somebody in a certain amount of time, then we need to get back to them. And if we can't, then I think we need to say, look, we don't have time to get back to you right now, and it's going to be 3 days, not tonight. So I think in that sense, it's important that we sort of honor those commitments. The other thing that I've been sort of tossing around a little bit is whether we could get some residents involved to field questions, because a lot of the questions that we get from the residents, often they're already answered on the website, but they're not always easy to find. So if we could do a better job on the website of having FAQs to help answer those questions, and then maybe get some residents that could help point other residents to the right answer, we could take some load off the staff, because we need the staff to do their job, but we also need them to be responsive. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Next, we have Judith. Judith, go ahead.
Thanks. And Craig, I like those ideas. To be honest, I think we can be more creative about solutions, but we first got to understand what's going on. I personally don't really understand it. And it takes 2, right, to talk. So if staff is not picking up the phone, we have to figure out what's going on. I don't think that's the case. I do think that they are inundated during the pandemic, and that's been a factor we have to get beyond. We need a record of every inquiry, and we need eventually to say that's been dealt with, and here's how it is. Whether it's a frequently asked question resource, that's great. But in my professional life, I find that people, even when they connect, they talk past each other. And what I want to make sure is that there's a meaningful exchange of what the concern is and what the answer is. And it can't be techno speak. It has to be, here's how it relates back to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Judith. And finally, we have Mary.
My point on this is that we live in a village. We don't even live in a town. It's a town of 4,000 people. We're used to having a personal relationship with staff. We're used to having a personal relationship with committee members. And I think that what happened was during the pandemic that everybody took 3 steps back from each other. And on top of it, we had a situation where committees were not having the authority that they had before, so that you didn't really feel perfectly comfortable about just asking the trails person about it. You felt like, or the planning commissioner, you felt like and the planning commissioner was sort of siloed into this. I can't talk about it because I haven't seen the plans yet. There was the openness of communication got lost. And I think we can bring that back. That being said, I'm a big believer in answering all your emails within 24 hours. And actually, nobody answers the phone anymore.
Great, thanks, Mary. That is everyone for that question. So we're going to go ahead and move on. This is tangentially related, though. This question, which came from, I think, a couple of readers now, not just one, was, do you think the town council has ceded too much decision-making to town staff or not enough? For this question, it's going to be a 45-second question. So let's get that up on the timer. And first to answer this question is going to be Dale. So as soon as I give you the signal here, Dale, we can jump right into it. All right, 45 seconds, Dale, go for it.
This again is another complex question, but have they ceded too much power to staff and consultants? I would say the answer is yes. Portola Valley was built on the committee system. I believe in the committee system. We have some committees that are working extremely well. And the committees really should take the burden of that, and the staff and the consultants should serve the committees. So I would kind of reverse that and say, has too much power been taken by the staff and consultants away from the committees? And I would say the answer to that is yes. It just takes a little bit of adjustment to get back to where Portola Valley has historically been.
Dale. Next is Craig Taylor.
Thank you. So at the end of the day, the town council is responsible for how town government runs. That includes how they, manage the town manager who manages the town staff, and how all the committees that all basically report up to the council do their job. One thing I've seen over the last couple of years is, I think in terms of process, we've lost with consultants. We need professionals, but what we've lost is the consultants need to be engaged with the committees. I would say at least, at the beginning, when they have their initial data, and then when they're coming back with the final result. What's been happening recently is the consultants sort of show up with a finished package, and then it sort of disempowers the committees because they're kind of like, okay, it's already done. So that's what I would do. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. We're moving on to Judith.
Yeah, I serve on the same planning commission as Craig Taylor, and I agree with that last comment that he made. I think a rebalancing needs to be considered. During the pandemic, the staff stepped up and kept us running when nobody could go in and continue operations as normal. But we're beyond that. We have to move on, and we have to get back to a more considered approach where, before it's too late to impact the issue, for example, the planning commission can get access to some grounding information and then give staff and experts direction on what they'd like more and less of. I think that's gone by the wayside a little bit too much at this point, and we need to fix it.
Thank you, Judith. Mary, you're next.
I've had good experiences with this. I think I already went on this one. Did I not?
No.
Oh, this was not the one about the nobody answers their phone anymore.
Completely fine. This is a separate but similar question. You can go ahead when you're ready.
Okay. Okay. So have they taken too much control away from the town council and the committees? I of course think that is true. That has happened. I think that it's made it really uncomfortable for residents, because residents have lost the sort of feeling that they can call their councilman, or they're always directed through the staff. So it's just a different feeling. The staff is pretty dedicated to making sure that the rest of the community is not being engaged.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, Craig Hughes, you are the last one for this question.
Thank you. Yes, I think staff has taken an increased role in Portola Valley governance, and I think some balance needs to be restored to committees as we come out of the pandemic. Oh, the timer is not going. Sorry, I'll try and guess at 45 seconds.
Go ahead.
In any case, some power should be restored to committees, but staff needs to be able to supervise the committees to ensure that things don't happen. For example, the reason that we had to remove Dale as vice chair of the wildfire committee, he was trying to work with the chair of the committee to undermine other members on the committee and remove them from being able to discuss the committee's work at the committee. He sent emails to the chair saying, is this woman clueless or what? Not sure if I trust Jennifer on anything right now. Jennifer, her appointment is a disaster. Please forward me Sarah's agenda. We will completely ignore it, of course. I have a healthy skepticism for anything from NJ.
Thank you, Craig.
So when committees are not
We're-
able
we're-
to do
we're
their
up, we're
work,
up, Craig. Thank you.
staff must help.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are moving on to the next question. This is a 1-minute question. And this is something that many of you have already touched on, so we appreciate that.
I'd like to respond to the mayor. He was attracting me personally, and so I think it's important that I get a chance to respond.
This does part ways with our normal format, but given how direct that was, a 45-second response, Dale, if that's okay with everybody. Let's go ahead and get the timer up here.
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
It's kind of interesting that the mayor never allowed me to have a discussion about these issues. The mayor informed me that there was a problem, and in a 4-minute phone call, removed me from the committee. There was never any complaints that I was aware of on these issues, and fired me. And he said I could resign or be fired, and I said you'd have to fire me. So at no point was there a personal discussion and said, gee, can you do this? Can you work with this person? And by the way, the staff and certain members of the committee ambushed certain of us on the wildfire committee with trying to inject a change in the charter without any discussion before it was done.
Thank you, Dale.
So I think it's important for that to be on the record.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's jump back into the forum instead of the debate that we were slowly heading into here. 1 minute for this question. And this will be starting with Craig Taylor. And the question is, we've heard from many readers with concerns about fire risk and emergency evacuations. Those two kept coming up. What specific actions would you like to see the town take to improve fire safety? Again, this is starting with Craig Taylor. It's a 1-minute question. Craig, go for it.
Thank you. So in terms of specific, I mean, obviously, I think we all understand. Your timer's not run. There you go. So obviously, we all care and are with CZU quite aware of the wildfire danger. In terms of specifics, we need to have a hazard map. 10 years ago, we didn't adopt them, but we sort of blanketed the town with a set of regulations that sort of made that moot. But we're now moving to a place where we really need that hazard map. And we either need, I think, the Moritz map, or we need what the Woodside Fire District is working on, but we need to get that, and we need to get that like in a quarter. The next thing we need to do is we need to, update our regulations, but we need to do with public input, because I worry about unintended consequences. So the idea of adopting regulations wholesale, I don't think works. But if we have a set of meetings with the public, I think we can make it work. And then finally, it's education. I mean, I encourage everybody to join WPV Ready, because individual households need to be prepared if we're going to all be safe. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Craig. Next is Judith.
Thank you. Fire is a risk I wasn't aware of 4 years ago, and I'm very aware every day I walk around here. We have to have the best possible map of the fire risk zones in town. If that's the Moritz map, fine. If it's something new, I want to look at it. The process I would go through is to engage experts, but also engage the public who have themselves spent a lot of time researching these issues, and make sure that they're giving good input and able to impact what aspects are concerning to them. Then in terms of regulations, we've got to make sure that, again, public input is there, that things are achievable and practical. For example, if I want to replace my deck, I don't want stone on it, and I want to know what alternatives there are. And last, I want to incorporate education so that this becomes a day-to-day, easy thing for people to understand.
Okay, thank you. We need to move on here to Mary. Mary, go ahead.
I thought I heard the word evacuation on that question. So I guess that's what I picked up on. It strikes me as, I won't use any strong words, but it's been remarkable that over the last 15 years, we've been talking about an evacuation drill, evacuation the dangers, the seismic risk, how we were going to do a drill. We did one partial drill, I think 10, 12 years ago, where we had cert, et cetera. I think we need to just do it, even if it doesn't work well, just like Sequoias did. Sequoias won't get out if we don't get out of their way. So we have to know what we're doing. So the other thing I think is, as Craig Taylor pointed out, the homeowners associations and the local people have to be well organized to do that function. And I'm going to stop there because we'll get back to that.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is going to be Craig Hughes.
Yeah, I think first we need to gather all the information. As has been pointed out, we need updated maps. All of the maps that we have are 15 years, not 10, but more like 15 out of date. The Woodside Fire Protection District is engaged in a project to update those maps, as is CAL FIRE. We need to collect the information from our residents who put a ton of time into this and feed that into the process as well. And then continue working closely with the Woodside Fire Protection District, our fire department, to pull all of that together into a comprehensive plan. That plan needs to involve our committees, our residents' input, our planning commission, and ultimately our council coming up with a comprehensive plan. There are a lot of pieces. They all need to be in place. They all interact and feed in and out in with each other. The complexity is doing this in a way that progresses quickly and gets us safer faster, while also incorporating all of that, and balancing that is going to be the biggest challenge.
Thank you. And then finally we have Dale. Dale, go ahead.
Well, thank you on some of my hot button issues. Number one, I think I've heard everybody here say that the best map we currently have is the Moritz map, which has more than 90% of Portola Valley in high or very high fire danger areas. And I'm going to ask publicly why, in the safety element that we're going to see for the first time from the consultants, are they going all the way back to the very discredited CAL FIRE map, which has only 6% of Portola Valley in high or very high fire danger? We need to be honest about our fire risk. We ought to use the Moritz map in the current safety element. We ought to use the information from our Geologic Safety Committee about all the faults in town, and be fair and honest and come up with a good safety plan. When the Woodside Fire Department comes up with their updated map, it's going to be far worse in terms of very high fire danger than the Moritz map, because they're going to use structures and flame length in that map. So we need to start from at least something that's closer to the truth, but it's all about honesty, and then we can figure out what to do from there.
Thank you. Thank you, Dale. All right, next question here. This is also going to be a 1-minute question, so break for the timer person. And we're going to start here with Judith again. And the question here is, it seems clear that the town can't meet its state mandated housing goals with accessory dwelling units alone. What other projects do you support to accommodate the 253 units the state has designated for Portola Valley from 2023 to 2031? Judith?
Yeah, thank you. I've been managing thoughts around the housing element and how best to meet these requirements since 2013. We were amazed at the requirement that we previously had at 65. Going and quadrupling that requirement is presenting enormous problems for a community like ours. Those state mandates don't fit a community like ours. Nevertheless, we've got to comply with them. There are significant consequences to not complying with them. And in particular, the Housing Element Committee identified a few options that I didn't like: the opt-in zoning and the treatment of Glen Oaks stables. But I do think affiliated housing and JADUs need to be explored. They're underexplored, and they could be very valuable component.
Thank you, Judith. Okay, next up is Mary.
I feel, back to the question of homeowners associations, Portola Valley is made up of planned communities. And one of the ways we can keep our character and meet our housing allocation is to work with our planned communities and say, hey, look, we have 253 houses we've got to put in here. Westridge, what can you do for us? Go to each of the different groups that have been hard at work trying to deal with the character and beauty of their place, and have them come up with solutions and have honest conversations instead of the stock phrase, which is we don't really want to help those people. Because we actually want to be part of the solution to the housing, and we want there to be all kinds of people who can live here. How we get that done is by working with individuals and within the community.
Thank you, Mary. Next up is Craig Hughes.
Yeah, I think the answer is very much along the lines of what our draft housing element says. We've gone through a process over the course of the last year with hundreds of residents involved, 50 hours of public meetings and hundreds of hours behind the scene of our volunteer resident committee members working to pull this together, then taking it through the planning commission, then bringing it through the council to come up with a local plan to satisfy not the state, but the local mandate for Portola Valley that was determined by locally in the Bay Area, looking at every jurisdiction, figuring out where are the jobs, where's the population, where's the transit, and discounting, because Portola Valley has few of those things compared to other towns in our area, allocating a much smaller number here than anywhere else in the Bay Area in order to meet the federated economy's goal of providing housing that's needed in California. So our plan isn't perfect, but it's the best we could come up with.
Time's up, Craig. Thank you. Dale, you're next.
Well, there are two things here. Number one, I'm going to go back to safety, since we don't have a valid safety element, and I'm not sure we're going to get one. Maybe next year we can have a real valid safety element, but we need to push back on these mandates. There are groups throughout California organizing right now to push back on these state housing mandates, a lot of them on local control, many others thinking about safety. Portola Valley, in the overall scheme of things, is a tiny nit in the overall housing plan. We have a wildfire risk, we have an earthquake risk, and we've only got 2 ways in and out of town. And if you look at the traffic study, worst case, somebody could take 5 hours to get out of town. That's unacceptable. We need to push back on those. The housing element itself, I'll talk about the process. I don't think it was a great process. I think there were a lot of things that could have been done in subcommittees and would come up with better answers. And we probably should revisit many of those.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. We have not gone to Craig Taylor yet, so let's do Craig next.
Thank you. So, obviously we need thoughtful development. And the enforcement mandate, we need to deliver December 3rd this year. Housing put a lot of effort into it, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure that we got a result that the residents can basically stand behind. So one thing that fellow planning commissioner Targ and myself worked on was the idea of having a sunrise where we could give ourselves a couple of years, because potentially a lot of things could change in the next 2 or 3 years. There are lawsuits that may sort of change this. There are people arguing about whether the RENA numbers are valid. And then we may have some properties that open up that aren't open by December 31st. So I think the main thing I would say is we need to continue to actively work on our housing element, even as we get something to the state, because we're required to. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, is let's not stop just because we get to December 31st. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Craig. All right, and with that, we have the next question, which is 45 seconds. I still haven't figured out if this is too much or too little time, so we'll see how it goes. And this question, Mary will start. And the question is, and this came from a reader, what is your vision for the future of Dorothy Ford Field? Mary.
I'm in love with Dorothy Ford Field. I'm in love with the Los Trancos Creek. That's where I rode my bike when I was 18 years old. And those are the oaks I appreciated. I also appreciated the sycamore trees that used to be there when we actually had a good water table under Portola Valley. I see all those things as critically important, that we prioritize our open spaces. I think it should actually be an open space. It should be our gateway, our beautiful piece that says to the community, we believe in open space. And I correct myself, not open space. That's a green space.
Okay.
It's not open.
Thanks,
It's not
Mary.
a vacant lot.
Thanks, Mary. Next is Craig Hughes.
I agree with Mary. I think that the entrance to our town should demonstrate to the world what Portola Valley is and what it wants to be. And I think what it can be is a great example of how we can come together, take the mandates that we have from the state for providing housing, preserve the open space, if not expand the open space that's there, while also providing housing. Slide the baseball field over, use the parking lot that's there for much better use than currently, maybe underground it partially. And I think you can increase the open space and provide the housing and improve public safety and preserve the baseball field there if we approach it the Portola Valley way of looking at it creatively.
Thanks. Next is Dale.
Well, I'm going to go back to first principles, which is what a lot of physicists do. And from all of the meetings and so on, this money was donated for this to be permanent open space. Dorothy Ford Park was supposed to be permanent open space. That was a promise made by the town. Yes, it was never put in a deed, but we should honor that and keep that true to what Portola Valley is. Open space, once destroyed or built over, is never regained. So I'm very much in favor of something else other than paving over and tearing out those wonderful oak trees on Dorothy Ford Park.
Okay. Thanks, Dale. Next up is Craig Taylor.
Thank you. So I've been on the open space committee for actually longer than I can remember. So I'm a big proponent of open space. And yeah, I'm disheartened that Dorothy Ford Park is sort of on the chopping block, so to speak. So I'm with Craig that, we need to use our creativity to find alternatives, whether it's putting in underground parking, whether it's finding some additional place in town where we can build to basically make up for that. I think there's got to be a lot of choices. And that's part of the reason I think trying to give us a 2 or 3 year sort of delay will give us some more time to find some alternatives, because I really think it would be a travesty for us to develop that area. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Next up is Judith.
All right. One of the reasons I moved to Portola Valley was that area of the Portola, or the Alpine Road corridor. It's stunning. And as an individual in town, I will do anything to avoid developing Dorothy Ford Field or interrupting the feel of that space in particular. The only reason that housing is even being considered there is because we have the state imposed mandates. So during the sunrise period, if we can get that, we should explore every single alternative. This is a great opportunity for the community to pull together, to be creative and explore saving Dorothy Ford Field. And legally, just because you can doesn't mean you should. That is open space, and that's how people think about it.
Thanks, Judith. All right, great. Now we're going to do our rapid fire questions. I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Angela. These are 15-minute questions to make sure our timer person keep them on their toes.
15 seconds, yeah.
15 minutes, I like that.
If I keep saying minutes, and I'm going to keep saying minutes, I think. It's only Thursday too. We got 15 seconds. So Angela, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Okay, the first question, we're going to start with Craig Hughes. Looks like the timer is set. And the first question you have 15 seconds to answer is, should the town fight the state on the housing element?
I think the town should work with the state to change the way that it considers housing law. I think fighting is doomed to failure. I think that the far better way is to work collaboratively to get the state to change the way that it is operating.
Okay, thanks, Craig. Next we have Dale. Timer set.
I think everybody who's tried to work with HCD has failed. I think there are group organizing in California, including some cities near to us, who are joining to fight the state in many different ways. And we ought to approach all of our legal avenues to fight the state.
Time's up. Yeah, thank you. Next, we have Craig Taylor.
Yeah, so I think suing the state is crazy business. I think we definitely ought to be looking for what other people are doing. And if other people are successful, then I think we can follow suit. I think it's a waste of town money. We're too small to make a difference at HCD. So I'm sort of against the lawsuit in general. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Now we have Judith.
I'm an attorney, so I am a deal attorney. I don't like suing people. However, you do need under law to cross the boundaries sometimes, and we don't know exactly where the boundaries are. These requirements are so new. We've got to keep attuned to what communities are doing. Maybe it will make sense, but we need a parallel path to compliance too.
Okay, thanks. And last we have Mary.
One of my points would be that we need to work with many other communities that are in our same situation. We are a small fish. We'll always be a small fish, but we can be collaborative. We could work with the surrounding towns who are in similar quandaries and find out what we can do as a group. I don't think litigation is.
Thanks.
So
that's time. Thanks. Okay. So our next question, we're going to start with Dale on this one. What's one thing you think the town is doing really well?
I think the town is doing very well at what I call quality of life issues. And I want to give credit to our sustainability committee, our conservation committee, our parks and rec, our cultural arts, trails and paths. This is a wonderful place, and that's why we all love it.
Okay, now we're going to move to Craig Taylor.
You want to set the timer? There you go. So yeah, for me, I mean, I moved here because of the open space that's here. So it's sort of like Dale saying, it's kind of a quality of life thing, but you know, it's also this community gets together. It's small enough that I feel like we know each other, and I value that. I value everything we do down at the town center together. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we're going to move to Judith. Oh, I think you might have been on mute. Why don't we reset the timer? Thanks.
Okay. I think the events we've been having at the town center are great. You go down there, you see families, you see friends connecting, you get in the Redwood Grove, and that town center has been a magnet for people to enjoy our special environment. It's great.
Thanks. Now we're going to go to Mary.
I think that the town, I would second the opinion about the town center. I think that's been very beautifully run and a success, particularly the daylighting of the creek, which was one of my passions. I also think that PV Connect has worked very well. It's a solution.
Thank you. Next, we have Craig Hughes.
I agree very much about the quality of life and environment, but I think our people are also remarkable. We have a group of people, as we can see from this participation in this election, from our committees, from who you bump into when you're hiking on the trails here, that are great success.
This time, yeah. Okay. So the next question we're going to start with Craig Taylor on, and what's one thing the town is doing poorly is the question.
Yeah, so I think we've already touched on it, but I think the communication, particularly the individual outbound communication, I mean, it's just not okay that people who have projects aren't getting answers in a timely fashion. So I see that as a clear priority of the council, and I see that on the council to fix that problem. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, we're going to move to Judith.
I think we need to have, I'm just checking the timer isn't going.
The timer
not that I want to cut myself off. I want to make sure that town residents feel heard. They do not They have been saying this for a long time, and we have to fix it. It's got to go both ways, from the residents up to the governing bodies and from the governing bodies out.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Thanks for catching the timer issue. Let's go to Mary.
The main thing is the harassing of residents. There's been lawyers used against residents and vice versa. There's been harassment during meetings, which has been unpleasant. That's been
fine.
painful.
Thank you. Let's go to Craig Hughes.
Yeah, I think town communication and project management and clearly communicating to residents and hearing from residents about what is going on and what the priorities are and how everything fits together is something we're not good at.
Okay, and last we have Dale.
Well, the safety element is a layup. That's awful. But I'm going to say finance. We haven't had an audit for 2 years. And I'm going to lay that right at the feet of the town council. That is completely inexcusable.
If I might briefly respond, since Dale was addressing that to the current town council and I think directly at me.
That's fine. 15 seconds is fine. Go ahead.
We are in the same boat with COVID as many, many other towns that our auditors are working with. So it is not unacceptable and unusual. It is very common today, and we are catching up as fast as we can.
Okay, thank you. So the next person who's going to start first is Judith, and this is our last rapid fire question. The question, this one's not scary at all. What originally brought you to Portola Valley?
The open spaces. I started running long distances and I started horseback riding, and all of that led me to Portola Valley again and again. So once I got here, I then realized how special a community it is, that people in town have amazing qualifications.
Okay, Mary.
My original story tells it all. I was biking out here when I was 18. I learned that the people here love each other and care for and nourish those that use that are not necessarily residents, but are just using the trails or being here. I love that.
Okay, Craig Hughes.
Zots, and I'm not going to say I was 18 because that would have been illegal. But coming to Zots after a Stanford football game for a beer with my friends and enjoying the environment and the natural beauty here. That's what originally brought me here.
Okay, Dale.
I've got to say the open space and also the love of nature and the care of nature in Portola Valley, which has always been a big part of the theme here, where the buildings are set appropriately. We're not dense. We take care to take care of our environment, and that's what attracted my wife and I.
Okay, and last we have Craig Taylor.
So I'm going to echo open space as well. I mean, I've been working tirelessly since I got here to protect open space, so it's very special to me. But I'd also say that the volunteers in town, I mean, I think what sets Portola Valley apart from Woodside and St. Louis South Those Hills is the community we have. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to pass things back to Kevin now.
Great, thank you. We're going to go ahead and adjust the timer to, we said 45 seconds, but let's make this a minute because I think this is a bit of a doozy here. And this has come up a few times, which is some residents are viewing this election as a referendum on the work of the current town council. Please describe how you feel the current council has or has not been effective and what needs to change, if anything, about town governance. Starting will be Mary.
Good one. Well, one thing I would say is I'd consider term limits for one thing. I think we're too friendly a town to have to do this kind of painful, like we'll call it a referendum, having to take very serious efforts at making our elections and so forth. There should be recruiting done all along for new council members. I just think that would make a huge difference in the kind of people you would get to do the job. If it doesn't last for a lifetime and you don't get burned out on it and you don't start giving snide responses, I think we can do it. I think we just need to term limits and civility, all those good things.
Thanks, Mary. Next, we have Craig Hughes.
Yeah, I think I'm the one council member on this panel, and it's been tough for the last several years. COVID in particular has made it very, very difficult for us to operate the way that Portola Valley has always worked. The council has always depended on support from and work by all of the other volunteers in town to help us be able to manage the town government. And it's been very difficult to have that conversation and to continue being able to get access to that support network that the council generally has in Portola Valley over the last 2 years or so. We need to get back to that. We need to make sure that we, as we come out of COVID, reconnect into that network and re-involve the entire town in how we run our operations here. That is very important to do.
Thank you, Craig. Next, we have Dale.
Thank you very much. This is a doozy of a question, so thank you for the question. But I think some of the things the town council have done could have been done a lot better and would have led to better outcomes with the residents. I'm going to take couple of examples. One was a petition signed by over 600 members of the community to talk about fire safety. And it went to the town council and they didn't even bring it up for a discussion. It would have been much better to at least have a hearing. Let's have some experts come in and talk about it. Second, on the safety element, the chairs of 3 committees, the 3 safety committees, sent a letter to the town council asking that we be involved early on in helping the consultants on the safety element. The town council didn't even respond to that letter from the 3 heads of the groups. So that engendered some problems and maybe some of the divisiveness. And it's really simple to work with the committees, work with the residents, and have hearings on some of these complex issues.
Great. Thank you, Dale. Next is Craig Taylor.
Thank you. So yeah, I think the last 4 years have not been great. I knew people have worked hard and trying their best, but I think as Craig Hughes says, COVID's made this difficult. And I think as Dale's saying, I think the outcomes of that have not been great. And I think that's why we're having this election. I mean, I think we need some new blood, we need some new thinking. And I think we can get back to the Portola Valley way. I don't think we're that far off, but we have sort of gotten derailed. And, it's definitely going to be the case that getting our volunteer committees sort of re-empowered so that people feel like their volunteer activities actually are meaningful rather than they're volunteering but not having much effect. So I don't see that what we need to do is hard, but we definitely need to make a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Next, we have Judith.
Thank you. Look, first, the town council members all work really hard. They put a lot of skin in the game, and I am very appreciative of that. And COVID was hard. I will say, I thought during the first year in particular, when we couldn't see each other, the outward, communications were very helpful and actually crafted to keep people informed. And while COVID's been hard, that's no excuse to say, oh, it's hard, we won't do it. You step up the game. I think the first year, in certain respects, they did, and I was impressed. However, I've seen an erosion of transparency and communication and outreach and listening, and that's important. We're a community. Communities talk. Communities listen to each other, and we need to find better ways to make sure everybody has access to important information in this town.
Great. Thank you, Judith. Let's see. We're moving on to the next question. This is going to be 45 seconds. So once we make sure we get that up, and we're going to start this time with Craig Hughes. And the question is, Divisions in the community seem uncharacteristically severe lately. What would you do to restore harmony between residents and town staff and officials?
In 45 seconds. It's going to require a lot of ongoing work. I think that town staff needs to change culturally how they approach interacting with the public and with committees. And I think committees also at the same time need to recognize the changes that have been happening in regional government and state government that require us as a town to act more what I would call professionally. We have to continue to have the committees involved, but we also cannot forego the expertise that staff can bring to the issues that we need to face. We need to figure out how to knit those two things together, and that's going to require change and thought on all sides.
Next, we have Dale.
I think this is easier than some people make it out. I think it starts with a change in the town council. Things start from the top. I think, as we discussed earlier, there need to be some slight changes in the way that staff interacts with the committees. I would go back to the committees driving things, and staff and consultants are work with the committees, where we go back to the committees driving things for the town, and where we listen to the residents, and the residents have an outlook and a direct connection to the committees in town. I think that will solve some of the divisiveness. I think that people are weary of not being heard.
Thank you. Next is Craig Taylor.
Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, people need to be heard. You know, when people don't feel like they're being heard, then they get angry. You know, it's like they feel like, what's the point? I think my last 4.5 years on the planning commission, I think I've proven my willingness to listen. I'll listen to all sides. I always do. And I will change my mind based on the kind of input I get. So I think it's listening, being willing to sort of absorb that information and then make changes if they're necessary. So I think that's a critical part. I think we do need to change the, town staff, sort of the culture a little bit. And I think we work through the town manager to do that. And then re-empowering the committees, as I mentioned before, I think that the critical part is making sure that they feel like they've got some skin in the game. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Next is Judith.
Yeah. I really do question how much we really need to change to be more professional in the staff and in the way we administer. We are a small community. We're not Palo Alto. Solutions that fit us are not going to be the solutions that fit neighbors, even if they're generally in our locality. People are feeling like changes are being forced on them with no explanation. And our town has residents with amazing capabilities and backgrounds. Now, they're not all trained to do what the staff does. For example, the housing element is a highly technical document. You need input, you need guidance on that. I'm not saying that's not necessary, but I think it's gone beyond the necessary stage.
Thank you. Now we have Mary.
I have two thoughts about this. One is that what we're seeing right now is a watershed moment in Portola Valley. We're either going to continue to be our open space connection for the Bay Area, the people who actually help get us back in touch, the place where we can recharge, not just us, but everybody. And the other thought I had was that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And with what we did with this pandemic I think is wasted a very important crisis. We could have been actually doing more for the town, and instead the council shut down, and the town staff shut down.
Okay. One moment here. I think that's it for everybody for that question. It is wonderful. Okay, I lied. Forgot my place back. Next question is going to be 45 seconds as well, so no need to worry about adjusting the timer. And we're going to start with Dale on this question, which is census data puts Portola Valley among the Bay Area's top 20 most segregated neighborhoods by white wealth. Is it important to increase diversity in town? And if so, what steps would you take?
Diversity is something we all strive for, and unfortunately, we're a product of the Bay Area. You know, we have a wonderful location where everybody wants to live, and we have high housing costs and high housing construction costs. I've thought a lot about this, and I think the only way we can probably get there is working with our affiliated partners to try and bring diversity to the people who work in Portola Valley. I think that is a very important goal. We need to work with the stables, with our affiliated partners to try and get housing to house people in Portola Valley that work in Portola Valley. It's a non-trivial problem, but it's going to take a lot of work.
Thank you. All right, next is Craig Taylor.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I've seen in my little neighborhood where, you know, the plumbers and the geologists move out and doctors and lawyers move in. So culturally, things have definitely changed. Affiliate housing might help part of it, but affiliate housing is not going to solve this issue. Some of it is, you know, ADUs and JADUs may help, and residents can help there. I mean, if the residents really care about this stuff, we can help step up and sort of include diversity locally within our neighborhoods. And then finally, I think, you know, we're going to have to find some way to sort of meet this state mandate. I'm hoping it's not Ford Field. And again, this is where we need residents' help to do that.
Thanks, Craig. Next is Judith.
There we go. Okay, thank you. So I really do believe we're a better community if we have diversity in our viewpoints and diversity in our experiences. That goes without question for me. I haven't been on the town council, so what can I tell you? My own personal efforts, perhaps. Personally, I've funded scholarships to support needs blind access in my alma mater, Vassar. I have supported scholarships for women PhD students in STEM areas at the University of Sussex, another alma mater. I lead one of the most diverse groups in my law firm, and I continue to look for every opportunity to increase diversity. I would continue that in a different way at the town council level.
Okay, thank you. Next is Mary.
One thing that's really easy would be a training for the council and for the staff in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Equating race and economics is a pothole for sure for that people are currently falling into. I think that respecting the diverse populations we have in town is one thing that we've neglected and has caused a lot of resentment. I would say that we're transparently non-inclusive, if that's
okay.
possible.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mary. Next is Craig Hughes.
Yeah, I think housing and diversity of housing opportunities is an important element. And I think it's also important to have council members and community members who do not support notions such as that foreign students who come to the United States should move to another country, or that we are losing our country to people like this. Elected officials in this town should not support ideas like that. That will drive people away. People who might want to come here when they have opportunities will be turned off by having a council member or council members who support notions like that.
Okay. Moving on here. This is a 45-second question, but it's not a question at all. These are closing statements for our candidates. So we're wrapping up pretty shortly here. So they're opening the floor to you guys. You can go ahead and say whatever you need to say to your constituents, and anything that's been left over, now's the time. For this question, we're going to be starting with Judith.
All right, I started and I finished. Okay. Well, what I didn't get to say at the beginning was I'm a partner at a law firm, and what I do for a living is to try and bring people together to achieve a shared goal. They often have diverse backgrounds, diverse interests, conflicting issues, but if you apply skills such as the ones I've developed to be patient, to be a great communicator, which means listening and understanding. If you persist and you commit to achieve a positive outcome that serves everyone, you can get there. And it's a question of leveraging all of the community resources that we have.
Great, thank you. We're moving on to Mary.
Well, I am a physician. I am a consensus builder. I am a listener. I like to hear the story. And I am a firm believer that if you listen long enough, they will tell you the diagnosis. It's worked for me for years and years. And I think it gives satisfaction to both the patient and the physician. It means that you're not imposing something on somebody. It means that they're accepting what is the reality. So doing that discussion and that consensus building, I can also do it on an administrative level. I've shown, I did for Sutter, I did all the preventive healthcare guidelines for them. I got the Bridge Builder Award for the whole Sutter system. I am a consensus builder.
Thanks, Mary.
Vote for me.
Next, we have Craig Hughes.
Thank you. As we've covered a wide range of topics tonight, and I think the longest answers were a minute or a minute and a half. These are very complex topics, and I thank you all for participating tonight. I thank the 151 people that we have in the Zoom audience, probably more on YouTube, for listening and paying attention during this election. For more detail on my thoughts, please reach out to me. My email is on my website, voteforcraig.org. And I'm happy to talk at any length on any of these topics or any other topics with anybody at any time. So please reach out to me. Well, maybe not. I have other commitments, but I'll find time for you. So please reach out to me and I'll be happy to talk more.
Thanks for the commitment there, Craig. Next is Dale.
Again, thank you to all the listeners. I think this is very important. I think this is, we're very fortunate to be in a town where we have a very educated population. People pay attention, they understand things, and we face some very serious challenges in Portola Valley. I think this is a very serious election, and so I trust the residents out there to make the correct decision. Again, there's a lot of challenges and nuance to what's going on with these subjects, so please reach out. I'm happy to discuss things at any time. And remember, it's safety first, improvement in governance, and pushing back on unsafe state mandates. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and next we have Craig Taylor.
I guess I get to end the evening. So thank you, everybody. Thanks to the Almanac for putting this on. And I got 159 participants viewing, so maybe more watching me, cute Craig. But you know what I would say is the more public input we get, the better. I mean, every meeting that I've been in at Planning Commission where we get a lot of public input, we get a better product. So I think it's critical. So I thank all of you for joining us, and I hope you'll continue to join us as we move forward. So again, my platform is safety, civility, and accountability. The safety, and particularly wildfire safety, we've talked about. Civility, I think you just have to look at my record on the Planning Commission. And accountability, you know, if I'm a council member, you know, what I promise is we're going to have a set of goals, and at the end of the year, we're going to review the goals to see how we did against them. So thank you all.
Great. All right, thanks, Craig. And with that, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight, and thank our 5 candidates for participating in the forum. I think the peak that I saw was 184 people in this meeting, so I think that's a pretty darn good turnout. I think it goes without saying that the Portola Valley is fortunate in having so many civic-minded residents who are willing to devote their time and energy and evenings into making the town a better place. A couple things to note before I let everybody go here. We're going to continue coverage of this election and others over the next few weeks. You can find our coverage at almanacnews.com. If you want to watch a recording of this forum, share it with others, save it for posterity, you can head over to our YouTube channel. The link will be almanacnews.com/YouTube. And I believe we're going to try and make an effort to make sure that we have links to the candidates' websites in the description. So stay tuned for that and make sure if the link doesn't work, let us know. Thanks again, everyone, and have a good evening.